Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 20th, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services. This is the Kuhner Report.
Should Congresswoman Frederica Wilson apologize for politicizing the death of slain Sergeant LaDavid Johnson? My friends, this story just continues to grow and grow and grow. And now General Jim Kelly himself, General Kelly, has now weighed in, Trump's chief of staff. And so in a remarkable, absolutely remarkable press conference yesterday, he was asked about Frederica Wilson's claim, the Congresswoman's claim, that Trump was supposedly insensitive and showed no empathy in remarks that he made to the widow of Sergeant Johnson, who was killed, ambushed by ISIS terrorists in Niger. And so Trump called all four of the Gold Star families, 4 Green Berets were killed, in the call to the widow, Mashia Johnson. In that car, for whatever reason, were her aunt, her mother, the commissioner of Miami-Dade, and Congresswoman Frederica Johnson. She then immediately started calling up CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, you name it, everybody, saying that Trump had disrespected the widow, disrespected Sergeant Johnson, disrespected the family, that in fact he is so cold-hearted, she says she questions whether he has a brain disorder. And she has been making the media rounds ever since. General Kelly, who lost a son himself in Afghanistan in 2010, set the record straight. Listen to his unbelievable press conference where, I mean, he gutted Congresswoman Wilson like a fish. Roll it, Brittany.
So he called 4 people the other day and expressed his condolences in the best way that he could. And he said to me, what do I say? I said to him, sir, there's nothing you can do to lighten the burden on these families. But let me tell you what I tell them. And let me tell you what my best friend, Joe Dunford, told me, because he was my casualty officer. He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were because we're at war. And when he died, in the 4 cases we're talking about, Niger, my son's case in Afghanistan, when he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to 4 families the other day. I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought, at least that was sacred.
No, it's not. By the way, my mistake. I said Jim Kelly. Obviously, it's General John Kelly. My bad. General John Kelly he's 1,000% correct. In fact, I played that one. I rarely play clips over and over again. That one I played maybe 5 or 6 times last night. It was so from the heart. It was from not just a military man and a general, and not obviously just and the chief of staff who was there in the room with the president when he made the call, who in fact says, look, President Trump asked me, what do you say? He goes, look, I'm going to tell you what I was told. That's what he signed up for. And there were other witnesses there who said, I don't know what this woman is talking about, that somehow he meant it in a malicious way or an insensitive way or a cold-hearted way, or he's some kind of a monster who was just wanting to stick it to the widow, or somehow blame Sergeant Johnson, as the liberal media now is claiming, that he somehow bore sole responsibility for his death. That's not at all what Trump meant, and that's not at all what he said, and that's not at all what he delivered. And so when he says, how could somebody even do this, even try to politicize this? Welcome to Trump derangement syndrome. That's how the liberals roll. And he makes to me a brilliant point. I mean, General Kelly, I thought, was spot on. He makes an absolutely brilliant point. What the hell was she doing listening in on the phone call anyway? I mean, I want you to think, look, I'm sorry, okay? But I want you to think about this. Forget that he served his country. Forget that he served with honor and bravery and distinction, okay? Leave all of that alone. Let that go, as I would say. You just lost your spouse. You just lost your spouse. You've got 2 children and a third one on the way. The president gives you a call to offer his condolences on the death of your husband in this case. What the hell is a member of Congress doing listening in on that phone call? That's none of her business. It's the most intimate call you can possibly make. And so my reaction, honestly, when I heard this was, boom, drop the mic. It's over. There's nothing left to say. Now, but Frederica Johnson isn't done, because this is now how the liberals roll. Now everything and anything, including the death of soldiers, must be exploited and politicized to try to smear Donald Trump. So listen now to her. After Kelly completely and utterly humiliates and eviscerates her, listen now to her response. Roll it, Brittany.
That the White House is following me and my words. This is amazing. That's amazing. That is absolutely phenomenal. I have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now.
It's a sick woman. If nobody else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. This is a mentally ill woman. How this woman is a member of Congress is absolutely beyond me. So there she is with her ridiculous cowboy hat, with her ridiculous glasses. Honestly, she looks like a buffoon, like a clown. She's the one making the rounds, doing interview after interview after interview, trying to politicize this, turning this into one of the greatest scandals of the Trump administration. And then when she's absolutely called out on it, she's like, why are they picking on me? How come they're picking on me? Because you're the one that's making a big thing out of this story. You're the one that's going around to CNN, to MSNBC, to the entire mainstream media. Had you not listened in on that phone call and completely misconstrued it, I think deliberately, but let that go, then, and had you not run your mouth off to the media, none of this would have happened. How does this help the widow? How does this help her 2 children and the third one on the way? This woman, all she cares about is getting her face and that ridiculous cowboy hat, Mini Maxine, out in front of the cameras. And so, in response now to this savage, absolutely savage, barbaric attack on Trump by the media, a Gold Star family widow, a Gold Star widow by the name of Natasha de Alencar, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has decided to release the audio of a phone conversation that she had with President Trump just in April about the death of her husband who was killed in Afghanistan. The audio is a little bit rough and a little bit raw, but she wanted to release it so the American public could understand that the monster that the media are trying to portray of Trump, that this Congresswoman, Minnie Maxine, is trying to portray of Trump, is the exact opposite of the truth. Listen now to the audio released by a Gold Star widow, Natasha de Alencar. Roll it, Brittany.
Natasha?
Yes, sir.
I am so sorry to hear about the whole situation. What a horrible thing, except that he's an unbelievable hero. And, you know, all of the people that served with him are saying how incredible he was.
Yes, sir.
And just an amazing guy. And I
Hello, sir.
He's a great hero.
I want to thank you, President Trump. Those words are very kind. He was an amazing man, an amazing husband, and an amazing soldier. And I couldn't be more proud of my husband than I am right now, sir, to be honest with you. It's what my husband wanted to do. Yeah.
Everyone told me how great. I mean, he was the leader. He was the boss. He was their friend. They all loved him. You know, just like you do. I mean, it's just a special guy. Go ahead, Natasha.
Yes, he's just an all-around guy, and I'm glad that you got to get to know a little bit about him and get to hear a little bit about him, sir. My husband is, to me, he was already my hero, to be honest with you. We've been together 15 years, 5 children. Run down real quick, 2017, 15, 12, and 4. My son is currently in college in Missouri playing football, so when I say all around a hero, yes. And but now it's like the world gets to know he is an American hero, so thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I really do, sir. Thank you.
That's so amazing. It's so amazing. And I'll tell you, when you're around, if you could, you know the people to deal with, but if you're around Washington, you come over and see me at the Oval Office, okay?
Yes, sir.
You just come over and see me, because you are just the kind of family. This is what we want. And how good a football player is your son at Missouri? He's got to be pretty good. That's a good team, right?
I mean, does this sound to you? I mean, you just heard this, you know, and I want to thank her for releasing that, because you combine that with General Kelly, and not only does it destroy the entire narrative again, but you know what it really shows? How desperate, how twisted, how perverted the media have become, that they are now willing to so twist and distort what happened and this conversation in their obsessed, mad, almost hate-driven, demonic obsession. Really, it's almost demonic. It's almost diabolical to bring the president down. It's really sick. It's pathological. When you listen to him speaking to that woman, I don't hear a monster. I don't hear some cold-hearted guy who can't stand the widow and is mocking them, or completely and utterly indifferent, or has no empathy or sympathy. I hear the exact opposite. He's awkward. You don't know what to say. He's trying to be consoling. He's trying to let her know that her husband was a hero, that we appreciate it, that we're thankful. You talk about the kids. You want them to think about moving forward, playing football, getting on with their lives, knowing that their dad was a hero. I'll tell you this. I'll bet you dollars to donuts Obama was nowhere near as compassionate or sensitive or empathic as President Trump. And I'll tell you something else. President Trump, you can say whatever you want about him, is the only president, the only one who actually so far has attempted to call the Gold Star families of everybody who has died. Every Gold Star widow or widower he has attempted to call. And he's the one who lacks compassion? Enough is enough. 617-266-6868. What's your reaction to the General John Kelly press conference and the audio now being released by the Gold Star widow? Does this put this scandal to an end? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. This woman's sick. Congresswoman Wilson, I'm telling you, this woman is a sick woman. She's absolutely shameless. And this is now who the left is now lionizing. CNN is now saying she's ending up the public enemy number one, they now say, to President Donald Trump. This is who you're putting up against the president? Ay, ay, ay. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Let's go to CJ in Boston. Go ahead, CJ.
Thanks for taking my call, Jeff.
My pleasure, CJ.
As a former combat veteran, just let me tell you that any veteran listening to that conversation would not be offended by that conversation. I just want to look back, look at Big Mike, look at Charlottesville. The left has nothing better to do than to nitpick on everything Donald Trump says, President Trump. And I'll give it to you in a nutshell is why the mainstream media and the liberal left hate this man so much. One reason, Donald Trump cannot be bought.
I think you're right, CJ. Look, they can't control him. They can't stand his agenda. He's against the New World Order. He's against globalism. He wants to drain the swamp. He wants to overturn the establishment. That's them. He threatens their power. He threatens their control. He threatens their wealth. And so now they're out to literally destroy this guy. And if it means now perverting, twisting, manipulating even what is being said to the widows of slain soldiers, of heroes, that's what they're going to do. And by the way, CJ, I want to thank you for your service. I love all of you guys. You know that. I love you vets. You know, and I just want to say one more quick thing. You know, look, please don't get me wrong. The vets are the best of the best. And I agree with Kelly when he characterized them as the 1%. They're the real 1%. The ones who volunteer to fight and die potentially for our country. But, you know, the president, and everybody knows this, he's got an unbelievably busy schedule. I mean, when you just objectively, he's got to deal with taxes. He's got health care. He's got the budget. I mean, I just want you to think what his day is like. He's got North Korea. He's got Iran. He's got China. He's got hacking. He's got Russia. He's got trade with Canada, trade with Mexico. He's got illegal immigration. He's got education. Literally every 5 minutes of his day is parceled out. That's how busy he is. For this guy to be working 22-hour days and saying, no, I'm going to call these vets, these Gold Star families. I'm going to call the people who've, made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. I'm going to call the widows or the widowers. I don't care how. Make it happen. And so now we're going to get into, well, he said he knew what he signed up for, and it still hurts, and it's the way he delivered it, and I don't like the way he said it, and the way I interpret it was insulting, and are you kidding me? No, really, are you kidding me? Tony in Marlboro. Go ahead, Tony.
Jeff, hey, I want to thank you for fighting back. It's refreshing that somebody's taking a stand. Even more disappointing than, to me anyways, in what the Congresswoman said is the fact that, A, she's going to be reelected now, and people buy this, what she said, believe, and they're like, it's gross that Americans would put her in that position as a Congresswoman to begin with. She obviously is incredibly unqualified, and it's sickening that she got into the Americans voted her in there in the first place.
Tony, I'm really thank you for that call. I'm serious now as a heart attack. I think we need to have an IQ test for members of Congress, and I think we also need to have like a mental stability test. No, I really do. I think you have to be sane, and I think you have to have a bare minimum IQ if you want to be a member of Congress. And so my recommendation to Congresswoman Wilson is, why don't you take a walk in Arlington National Cemetery? Really, why don't you see what the sacrifices others have made for you to go there with your ridiculous cowboy hat and flap your mouth off? And instead of going around and calling myself a rock star, especially coming from a woman who has voted against veterans and veterans benefits repeatedly for years. And the media is lionizing her? Trump was right. They are the enemy. Let's take it to Jackie Murphy in the 1238 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, the scandal just grows and grows and grows. So now Don Lemon at CNN now claims, listen to this, that Trump had to send out General John Kelly to excuse, quote unquote, Trump's bad behavior. In other words, really, at this point, it doesn't matter what you say. Trump is evil. Trump is a monster. Trump is cold-hearted. Trump is insensitive. When Trump calls up the widows of slain soldiers, especially if they happen to be minorities, then it's racism, and he just doesn't care. And so what the facts are, it doesn't matter. It's just burn him down. Listen now to John Kelly again. To me, in one of the most riveting, from the heart, visceral press conferences I've ever heard. Listen to him say, really, enough is enough. Roll it, Brittany.
So he called 4 people the other day and expressed his condolences in the best way that he could. And he said to me, what do I say? I said to him, sir, there's nothing you can do to lighten the burden on these families. But let me tell you what I tell them. And let me tell you what my best friend, Joe Dunford, told me, because he was my casualty officer. He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were because we're at war. And when he died, in the 4 cases we're talking about, Niger, my son's case in Afghanistan, when he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to 4 families the other day. I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought, at least that was sacred.
Boom. Drop the mic. I just hit my microphone. Okay? To me, that's it. Drop the mic. That's it. There's nothing else to say. And to me, it's the last line. Play the last line again, Brittany. It's the last line. That's the one. That's the one. I have to tell you the truth. That's the one that I think cuts the deepest of all.
It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought, at least that was sacred.
No. Nothing is sacred anymore for the left and the liberals in their attempt to destroy Trump at all costs. Nothing. Nothing. Like, I'm not kidding. Every day you say, just when you think the media and the left could not go any lower, they go lower. They go lower. Now, To me, here's what I'm thinking. This young man is dead. He was killed by ISIS terrorists, ambushed along with 3 of his other fellow brothers, Green Berets, in Niger. I'm thinking this poor young wife has got 2 children, a 3rd one on the way. She's pregnant. How's she going to take care of her children? They don't have a father. There's no role model in the house. Who's going to be there to provide for them, to protect for them, to be there for them in all of their crucial moments in life? And this congresswoman, to be honest with you, what the hell is she doing in the car to begin with is beyond, but let that go. You're listening in on one of the most private, intimate calls you can have, and then you're shooting your mouth off, trying to politicize it at every turn? I said this yesterday. I'm going to say it again because the left has not been able to refute this charge. Have you no decency left? Really? Have you no decency? Let me tell you this. The worst thing that can ever befall a child is to lose their mother or their father when they're young. When they're young. When they're older, that's just the way it is, right? If you're lucky, your parents pass away before you. When they're, older and you're older, and it's almost part of being an adult. You have to eventually say goodbye to your parents. But when you're talking about kids that are 2, 4, or in one case, poor child hasn't been born yet, and never going to see your father again, and all the media can do, all CNN and the New York Times and MSNBC and the whole rotten bunch, Anderson Cooper and Don Black Hole Lemon, and you just run down to Humpty Dumpty, Brian Stelter, that guy, every single one of them, Rachel Madcow, softball on softball, Chris Matthews, all of them. All they can do is put this dumb Mini Maxine, this idiot, this rodeo clown with a cowboy hat, going on, he disrespected us, disrespected the family, yelling and screaming. And I'm like, are you serious? So even a dead soldier, a hero, and a widow in her most vulnerable moment, even that is not sacred. If that's not sacred, I'm telling you right now, nothing is. 617-266-6868. Mike in Newton, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead. Mike.
Hey, Chuck.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, when I first saw this woman on TV with the cowboy hat, I thought she was going to bust out with Happy Trails to You. She looked like Gail Evans. Jeff, the general, a man's man of the first degree. He spoke from the heart. I've had people tell me when I've gone to a wake or anything, and you talk about whoever they lost, and he said, Mike, he was doing what he wanted to do. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, Mike.
I mean, he was doing what he wanted to do. It was to take that oath, to pick up arms in defense of our country, with the full knowledge that you may not come back, or you may come back as a different person, was what he wanted to do. And he is an American hero, as well as Mr. Kelly. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Mike. And again, thank you for your service. 617-266-6868. Let's, pardon me, Brittany? Okay. Let me just, one quick point, and I want to continue, obviously, with your calls. Leave aside that he's a hero, just for the sake of argument. Leave aside that he's a soldier. Leave aside that he was ambushed by ISIS. Just, if you can, just let that go. Put that off the table. A firefighter, a police officer, whatever. You go to the funeral, died in action, shot, killed, let's say, by a gangbanger or a firefighter going into a burning building and dying. Okay, it happens. You meet the widow. You put your arms around her and you say, at least he died doing what he loved to do. At least he died doing what he wanted to do. Now, for you to look at that and take that as an insult, you're a sick person. Because the implication is not, hey, screw him. Well, hey, he died doing what he wanted to do. It's on his head. He bears responsibility for this. Come on, blank him. Let's all leave. No. It's literally, it's one of the most comforting things to me. You can tell somebody, look, I know you're grieving. I know your heart's shattered. I know you're thinking, who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to take care of me? What's going to happen to us? Oh, my God, the love of my life is gone. Everything's racing through your head. But to comfort you, to steady you in your darkest hour, at least know it wasn't pointless or senseless. He wanted to be a firefighter. It's the kind of guy he was. When everybody runs out of a burning building, he was going in. When everybody's running from the gangbangers, he's running in. He wanted to serve and protect. That's the kind of guy he was. That's the man, or in many cases now, the woman that you married. In other words, it's a tribute. It's to say, almost to help you say, hey, you know what? I can lighten, the burden is lighter now. I can carry this cross a little easier now. Because he was that kind of a man, or woman, and he was that special. And you know what? I can tell my kids that. Daddy was a firefighter. Daddy was a police officer. Daddy died trying to serve and protect others. That's the kind of man your father was. That's the name that you carry. Now, for you to stand there and say, oh, insensitive. How could you say that? You have a brain disorder. You're cold-hearted. Or even worse. I'm going to be honest with you. That man lost a son as well, General Kelly. Lost his boy in Afghanistan. You can hear it in his voice. That's why he's one of the most moving. I almost had tears. I rarely watch. I watch a clip. I go, okay, we're going to do that story tomorrow. Move on. I watched it again and again and again because it was right from the depths of his soul. What he's saying is, I lost my boy. President gives you a call. It's the most intimate moment you can have. It's the commander-in-chief. Why? Because he sent my boy into action. By the way, Obama never called Kelly. Never called that Gold Star family. The dear leader wouldn't make that call. No, I'm not blaming him. You got 1,000 people dead under his watch in Afghanistan. He can't possibly call everybody. But my point is, this president did. He went that extra mile out of respect for those that serve our country and those that die. And he's the bad guy. Liberalism is a mental disorder. No. Or this now needs to be said. To you, Frederico Wilson. To you, Don Lemon. To you, Rachel Madcow. Really, from the bottom of my heart, blank off.
WRKO.
Larry in Belmont. Go ahead, Larry.
Jeff, I can't speak for my two brothers, but all three of us are veterans. We all made it home. I've seen some posts from my brothers on this subject, and they're just as livid as I am. But I want to hit a couple points. First, before you went on your first break, you asked a question. Now that General Kelly has come out, will this end? It won't. We have concrete proof that Russia colluded with the Clintons and not Trump, but they won't let it die. They can't. Same with this. I want to throw two other names at you and see if you can tell me the connection. Cindy Sheehan and Mr. Khan. That's what this widow, they're trying to make her out to be. They're going to use her as a puppet to replace those two for bashing Bush back in the day and then Trump during the DNC convention and up through the election. They can't let it die.
You're saying because they're so invested in bringing Trump down.
They are so invested in bringing him down. I tell you, sir, the Reverend Martin Luther King could rise up from the dead, show up at the press conference and say that Trump is an honorable, not a racist, very good man. They would call him an Uncle Tom the next day, just like they're doing to General Kelly now, calling him a racist. They cannot.
Larry,
they're too invested in the derangement syndrome.
Larry, if you don't mind me asking, where did you serve?
I served from 88 to 92. I did a tour in the first Gulf War. I was in Dhahran for a few months. Now, I was support. I was a mechanic on an aircraft. And it was after the war had ended because we just pounded him into oblivion. By the time I got there, it was all over. But I did my Air Force time. My two brothers served. They were lifers in the Air Force as well. Between the three of us, we have 65 years of service.
Larry, can you do me a big favor?
Anytime.
The next time you call my show, just please don't call me sir. Call me Jeff. I call you sir.
Respect.
You don't call me Jeff.
I appreciate it.
All right, you don't call me sir. I call you sir. Larry, thank you for your service and thank your brothers for me. You sound like a wonderful family. God bless you, Larry.
What did you want me to do?
Just don't call me sir.
No, you said...
Oh, please, thank your brothers for me. Thank them for their service as well. God bless you, Larry. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. No, really, I look at these guys. They put their lives on the line and they're calling me sir. No, I call you sir. You don't call me sir. I never risked my life for this country. You guys are the true heroes. I'm just the guy behind the microphone. Nolan can we squeeze Nolan in? Nolan, 45 seconds. Go.
Hey, Jeff, real quick.
Yes.
So my request to you is to bring the Congresswoman in and confront her with what she's so taken aback by in that conversation, and then present her with the video clip the audio clip that we just heard, and then ask her again. If she comes up with the same excuse that it's appalling, then ask her to resign on the air because you have millions of listeners, and give her a chance to essentially abdicate herself from her responsibility. That's what I think you need to do.
Nolan, ask and you shall receive. Brittany, let's give her office a call, and let's get that rodeo clown on the air next week. All right, let's get it done. Okay, Bolton and Laura Ingram next. Don't touch that dial.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.